All right, why not? We're just going to start. I gave it 10 seconds. My name is Philip Nell. I'm ADD and I'm impatient, so I don't like to wait. That's what. Dude, good. All right, cool. That's what we want. So the most important thing is give us 5s across the survey. No, seriously, my name is Philip Nelson. I'm with a company called NewTek, and we make a device called the TriCaster, and I'll be partially moderating this panel today. One of the things we're going to do that I think is a little different than most panels, we're not just going to throw out a question and then let the line answer it, and then throw out a question and let the line answer it. Also, I know Eric's in the back, and I don't want to give him a heart attack, but we're also not going to do a Q&A at the end. Because I think, when you save the Q&A for the end, you forget the context of the question. So, I really feel like, if you guys have questions, let's ask them while we're having the discussion, and this could be a more interactive panel. Don't feel like you're interrupting at all. You're part of the discussion. So our panel is called Turning Live Streams into Profits. And we have a very cool, diverse panel here. And I'm just going to do a quick introduction of each of our panelists. Starting to my left is Tom Jeffs with PGA Tour Digital. He's currently Director of Digital Program Management for the PGA Tour Digital, and he oversees day-to-day operations of their new over-the-top subscription service, PGA Tour Live, and he is the mastermind behind the MLB Advanced Media Partnership. That's a pretty good intro.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool. So let's hear it for Tom. Come on, everybody. We got to all wake up. All right, next we have Greg Ellis. He's VP of Sales and Business Development for DocCast.
Close enough.
Was that close?
Close enough.
Better than some of your employees?
Yes.
Okay, good. They offer a high-quality platform that simplifies the distribution of premium content, and it also specializes in the professional delivery of live and on-demand video content. And they partner with CDNs, and it brings the industry high-quality broadcasting, and they also offer easier video monetization. So let's hear it for Greg. Come on. This is the last panel of the day. I know people start to doze off, so I'm going to make you guys clap a few times. Our next panelist is Luke Carrier. I did that right? And he is the head of business development for Kling. And they help broadcasters sell video, live, pay-per-view, on demand, and almost any video e-commerce model in between. So they take all those, and they partner with major online platforms. They protect the content and player and process payments. Basically, it sounds like end-to-end, right?
Yes.
So that's a cool, so let's hear it for Luke. Come on. And our final panelist is Kevin Cancilla.
Yes.
Cancilla.
You got it.
Oh, I got it? Okay. And he is the director of marketing at Vindicia. And they are a recognized leader in enterprise-class subscription billing and recurring revenue solutions. So we have a good diversified panel, and the goal of this panel is to talk about how to make money with streaming. So before we jump into just a discussion, I'd like to know, what do you guys do? How many of you guys, by raise of hands, are content creators? Anyone? What type of content creators are you guys? What?
Mine's mostly focused around events.
Event? Live events?
Live events.
That's why we're all here, right? How about you?
Same music.
Live events. Anybody else? Another industry? Live events?
Broadcast.
Broadcast television. Who are you with?
I still
Okay, cool.
I work for a healthcare company, and one of my targets is potentially taking health information and licensing that out to other healthcare companies.
Very cool. Any other live content producers? Anyone? How many of you guys are in the service or equipment provider category? Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Who are you who with?
I'm with my own company, Digital Entertainment, but we do live streaming services for small, medium-sized companies who can't afford ways to go live stream themselves, so we go there.
Cool.
Same with Australian market.
You can just say ditto. No. We're breaking it down. There's only 2 real companies here. No, just kidding. Anyone else in the equipment provider category? Yes, sir.
Service provider.
Okay, how many people are IT? Any IT guys here? Good. No, I'm just kidding. We're not and then how many people have no clue what they do? Anyone? If you're confused, raise your hand. You were out here eating pizza and just wandered into the room. So the way I'd like to start this off, just to let you guys know, a little bit about our panelists and what they do. This is the only time we're just going to go down the line, but we'd like to start with Tom and just tell us what is your product, and I know some people actually have products. Your product is content. So talk a little bit about the PGA Tour and what you guys do on the digital side.
Okay, great. So as Philip mentioned, we launched a new over-the-top subscription service this year in July in partnership with Major League Baseball Advanced Media, so BAM for short. Basically what our product does is it's a subscription streaming service that is around our marquee pairings that we have on Thursday and Friday of our events. So for those of you who aren't golf fans, a golf tournament is generally 4 days of competition, Thursday through Sunday. Now what we have done to help out our TV partners on Thursday and Friday side is we put together our best players that are in the field, our most interesting pairings, so that they always show up in the TV window, 3 to 6. That's Thursday and Friday. Now the tough thing was those same great players were playing Thursday and Friday morning at a time when usually no one can see them. So Tiger is going to play in the TV window Friday afternoon, which is great, but no one is going to see him Thursday morning unless they're at the course, or maybe they'll see delayed highlights after the fact. What this product does is now you can watch Tiger, the other 2 guys that are in his group, as well as a secondary group from hole 1 to hole 18, his round in its entirety. So it's the first time that we're going to do that for an entire PGA Tour season. So we're working with BAM to bring that product to market, and launched at the end of July, funny enough, at Tiger's own event, the Quicken Loans National.
Very cool. Anyone, before we go down, any questions about PGA Tour's product? Anyone? Anyone? All right, Greg, go ahead.
We're an online video platform focusing on live streaming. If you haven't heard of us, our primary competitors are Livestream and Ustream, going after the B2B market. Our primary differentiation has always been our monetization approach through pay-per-view and subscription. We focus substantially on the event production industry. Between TV stations and event production, that's about half of our customer base. Roughly 20% of our 7,000 paying customers monetize their live streams.
That's a pretty good statistic.
And that's what we do.
Okay. Let's see, Luke, you're up.
Yes, so I work with Kling, Amsterdam-based video e-commerce company. We partner with online video platforms like Tacast who may not have that monetization element. So we offer a couple products, Kling Live, which allows anyone to sell pay-per-view, and we basically wrap a paywall around that video player provided by the online video platform and allow you to set business rules, pricing, whether it's one-time access for a few hours, or for a season of a sports league, or for a monthly recurring price. So we also handle the content securitization and customer support after the fact. We also offer a VOD product, and then an API, which is the technology that underlies all of it and allows you to really programmatically include this monetization element into your platform.
All right, and our final panelist, Kevin, you're up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So I work with Vindicia, and specifically when you think about managing your subscribers, now that you have this great content, how are you going to go monetize it? And so at the end of the day, we help customers like NBA, NASCAR, NFL, Chelsea, football club, to help effectively acquire their subscribers and then ultimately retain those subscribers through a lifetime process. We effectively have a subscription billing and recurring revenue solution that helps you monetize those things over the lifetime of those customers. And we specifically excel when it comes to the business to consumer model. And so at the end of the day, unlike some of the other solutions out there, we actually provide revenue uplift to your initiatives. And I look forward to talking more about that.
Okay, as I said, as we're having a discussion, you're free to jump in, raise your hand, and we'll ask a question. But I'd like to start out just kind of with the holy grail question, in my opinion. What type of content makes the most money on your platforms or on your channel? I mean, what is, there's so many people doing live streaming, and many of them are hobbyists because they never make a dime. And everybody's trying to turn that corner. So what advice do you have? What type of content are you seeing that is the one that people are gravitating towards, or, you know, so let's just, whoever wants to jump in first to answer or comment on that, or you can even take the question in a totally different direction. This is a very free-form discussion.
Well, I've never been shy. On our platform, by the way, one of the things, we have customers who use Clean. So while we provide a paywall, our business is the streaming side, the platform side. It's not the paywall side. So we work with Kling and several other paywall providers. The stats I gave earlier were just for the use of our paywall, because we don't track when somebody integrates with another paywall. The content, sports. Without question, sports is the #1 money maker. It's the one that the people who pull in $60,000 to $150,000 a month in pay-per-view and subscription revenue, that's their content. The #2 is personal professional development, particularly things that are focused on, if you will, spiritual enrichment. I don't mean religion here. I'm talking about get your life together, actualize yourself, move forward. If you will, we call it the $595 weekend at the Hilton now is transferred to the $500 live streaming pass.
Well, that's pretty cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would mirror that. I think that we see the most success probably with sporting events. Anytime that you have niche content and a niche audience, and that content is kind of exclusive, that audience isn't able to find it anywhere else. It's not a commodity. It's not entertainment or cat videos that they can find somewhere, but it's fans of a particular sports league. So we see customers like Women's Flat Track Derby Association, which you might have never heard of, but you know, it's athletes rolling around on roller skates in a roller rink, and they have 3 tiers of different teams and different competitiveness and amateurs, and they're actually able to sell access to on a daily basis or a weekly basis or monthly basis and drive really significant revenue from that. So athletics, as well as other markets, house of worship, as you mentioned, conferences like this one, who might offer a virtual attendee pass, or also internal enterprise communications who might need to communicate with their employees.
So is House of Worship doing pay-per-view? I mean, how is that how they're making revenue off the stream, or how does that work?
Yes, we're seeing pay-per-view for special events, as well as maybe recurring for video on demand or some combination thereof. But we actually, interesting use case, sold pay-per-view access to a silent yoga retreat. So imagine you're paying to watch
That was an easy one for the audio guy. No mics allowed, right?
Right.
Was it truly a silent? And did you get any complaints saying, my sound isn't working? No.
Right.
Did you really?
It was a successful
He
event.
did. He did get that complaint.
Yeah, I would
go
just
ahead.
add that for us, when we work with the NBA on their league pass, as you can imagine, there's certain games that draw a lot of attention. And so as individuals who come in, they sign up, they want the one-time access as opposed to the regular subscription-based model. And so our solution helps enable the success of those transactions and allow those speeds and feeds to occur, because you can imagine there's thousands of people hitting the site at once. And you need that, scalability, reliability, and that's where we see those peaks, especially with NASCAR and with the NBA. And so,
As far as the PGA Tour's content, I mean, is there one project or type of content that you're seeing that is getting the most traffic or traction?
Just live.
So golf fanatics just log in and stay on as long as they can until they have a meeting and then they come back?
Well, no, even then, I mean...
My attorney's sitting there watching golf while he's billing me, thanks.
Yeah, we've seen, so we used to have a free live video product that wasn't nearly as robust as what we do today that's behind our paywall or subscription. But we've just seen engagement rates go through the roof, is because we're super serving the super fan. We're giving them true in-depth coverage of individual groups, which they actually don't necessarily get through a traditional TV telecast. So you're seeing, Tiger shot 67 the Thursday of the Wyndham Championship. You saw all 67 shots. Right. If you were to watch his round on the Golf Channel, you're going to get his last 11 holes. So you're just seeing consumption metrics, and you can look at our Conviva board or Conviva dashboard, just concurrence just go through the roof throughout the day. So again, it's really super serving your fan and what they're after. For us, it's as much live content as we can put on the platform as possible, whether that's live pressers on Wednesday and Tuesday as guys would get into the course, live video from the course leading up to the event, but ultimately for us, live event coverage is what does it for sure.
So for audience members that are in live events, what type of live events do you guys do? You mentioned music. What other types of live events?
Right now, it's just music, it's concerts.
Okay, live concerts. Are you doing pay-per-view or are you?
Yes.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Ours is more focused around kind of like large corporate events, everything from Microsoft, Amazon, capturing all of those sessions and live streaming them. So
Cool. Anyone else want to chime in? Go ahead.
we do a lot of studio work for TV, continual professional development points.
Okay. Very cool. So a thing I'd like to have a little discussion on is, it's not Field of Dreams. It's not build it and they will come. How are your clients building their audiences? How are people finding out about the PGA Tour Digital? How are these top, dirt track,
That's a biggie, by the way. Dirt
Oh,
track
no,
racing.
I'm not. I was thinking roller skating, roller derby. I was thinking dirt roller skating. That wouldn't work very well. But how are your clients building audiences, or do you guys help them, or have you just seen some best practices that would help our audience? Because it's great to say I'm going to sell a webcast for $10 or $500 for the weekend, but you can sit there and have 0 people watching. And so what are some best practices you guys have seen to build that audience to help them make some revenue on that project?
Sure. So one example that comes to mind is Cox Sports in the Northeast sells college hockey and basketball games in the Northeast, and they offered their first game for free, requiring registration. So that allowed them to gather some email addresses and market toward the audience who would be interested in this. Then later, they sold their live events on a pay-per-view basis, but then the replays instantly, almost an hour after the event was over, were free, because that's the premium placed on the live events and seeing the live action. Replays are not able to be monetized as successfully, although we have IMG Academy selling access to high school sports down in Florida, and they are creating a video-on-demand archive and selling both access to live and the ongoing access to video on demand, not just archives of old games, but instructional videos and value-added educational content as well.
So they're using the free content to build their database, and then they're monetizing that database.
Correct.
A project that I helped with that did something similar. Anybody watch Margaritaville TV or any Jimmy Buffett fans? So Jimmy Buffett, that guy's a genius marketer.
So you're a parrot head.
I am not, but I like him, but I don't have any Hawaiian shirts. But it was kind of cool. That's what he did. His fans are so fanatic that he started streaming every concert, almost every concert for free. And the strategy is you get them addicted to watching a concert every 2 nights, and then after a certain amount of time, it becomes a paid subscription. And he'll have tens and tens of thousands of people watching these concerts, and it's the same set almost every night. No, it's not really. But it is
Yes, it
interesting.
is.
That was the strategy they were using. The company's called Bubble Up out of Houston, who does a lot of band websites, and that was the strategy, is build the database and then get them hooked. But Buffett's in a unique situation. He has a fanatical
Established
fan base
base,
already that already
right.
wants to be at every concert. So does anybody else have any tips on building that holy grail audience?
Actually, I'd agree with that about the on-demand, except I'd say our users who do that, especially for concerts and live performance, they build it by marketing the same way a concert promoter would market. They saturate the places their fans are going to be. They saturate radio, tune in, they saturate advertising on the listen-in type of events for a concert specifically. Then what they'll do is, especially with a global audience, they'll sell 2 or 3 day, somewhere between 24-hour to 72-hour access. You pay a premium price if you get the live stream, but you have a lower price. If you pay for the live stream, you've got the next 2 days, you can rewatch the concert or performance.
So if you were there, you can go home and rewatch it because it was so great.
You can rewatch it because you went home and said, man, I went to that concert, it was the best thing I ever saw, you've got to watch this. And we see a lot of that. We see a lot of global artists will have a concert. For example, one of the favorites we have is these techno bands and performance artists out of Europe. go do concerts in Australia. Now, Europe is just getting home at 5 or 6 in the afternoon by the time when the concert ends. So these fans get home and they immediately log on and watch the concert as if it were live, because as far as they're concerned, it is live.
Right.
And then we have the death metal type of audience, which is a absolutely fanatic audience. And they sell typically 24-hour passes, because sometimes people forget to tune in for the live one, but they know the concert's sometime in that 24-hour period, and they'll watch it, the on-demand version after. Sports, people, especially if you're selling high school or anything where parents and family are involved, making it on-demand available is an incredibly strong pull. Nothing, though, stops. You said, how do you build the audience? Nothing stops the fact that you have to think like a concert or race promoter when you're doing it, or if you do corporate events or development events, your normal marketing channel to get people to come into the event live has to be the same channel you use to get people online. People the promoters who forget to do the marketing, they think, oh, I'll go up on a website. We built a test portal because we had too many of our customers putting stuff up on their own websites, which were Alexa 1 million, and Google rank horrible. Nobody could find the content. So we built a test portal that people could publish on with all their keywords, because we're a much higher rank, that people can find it, and then they embed a link so you can go to the broadcaster's actual website. And this was just something we did because so many of our customers were having problems building their customer base. But you've got to market just like you would if it were a live event in your town.
What type of events have you seen that actually do radio promotion? I mean, who does? Have they really done that?
Yeah, you get radio promotion for live performance of comedy. You get radio promotion for theater.
So they just pick markets around the country and say, watch our live webcast?
They know
NASCAR League Pass, they do that as well.
Yeah.
Race, right?
They know certain radio stations carry live performance of certain types, right?
Okay.
And so they don't do generic broad-based advertising. It's very targeted advertising on live radio. We see that. We carry New Zealand. One of our customers broadcasts New Zealand stock car racing, which is a very unique thing. It is not the same.
Is it on a dirt track? I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm stuck on the dirt track.
Philip, I would add a couple points on that. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I just
certainly,
said they do
sorry.
that. They advertise. They advertise on radio, but they also advertise. They have expat TV broadcasts from New Zealand that go out, and they advertise on those internet distribution channels.
Oh, wow.
And over the air, like satellite channel 895, 2 hours a day, they advertise on that. Sorry.
No, I'm just going to add that, we're saying a lot of things here up on the panel, and these things are very intricate, right? There's a lot of different interconnected solutions here to make this stuff happen. And so we say it with just a glancing statement, but really when you kind of peel back the layers, as we know, there's all this incredible technology behind it. And so the thing I was going to add was that when you think about like a couple examples that we work with at Vindicia, over at NASCAR, when they're promoting, they're doing a variety of different test options, right? So they do A/B testing to the nth degree. And so there's different ways to get the premium subscription. You can actually have an audio view of listening on the driver's side. And so, as you're saying, there's a little like freemium taste, get a little bit of the content, and then you can convert that user over time. But at the end of the day, you got to have the systems to support the different types of testing of those applications. And that's where we come in and help a lot of our customers on that side. Because, as you can imagine, the marketing officer, they want to test a variety of coupons or promotions, freemium to premium, things like that. I imagine you're doing that too.
Right, just a couple of things to add, that we definitely offer promotional coupons and the ability to distribute codes, and then of course measure the results of who's getting the best results and conversions from those codes. Also, we have social integration where people can actually, once they purchase, get a discount to share with their friends, which encourages virality. So once you've bought it, now you can share a link and your friends can buy it for 50% off, something along those lines. So definitely important to treat it like promoting any other event, though, and not to lose sight of just because it's published and paywalled, it will be successfully sold.
And you're investing all that time in those one-time transactions. So what are you doing to collect that data? Are you thinking about the future, about monetizing that on a recurring basis? And ultimately, you got to have a strategy to support that conversion over time. And that's something you should definitely factor into your streaming event strategy.
Do you guys have any metrics on what's the best source of promotion that's led to clicking buy now, like social, email, organic search? I mean, is there any, a takeaway, something that they could write down and put a star by, that if I'm going to do one thing to promote my event to try to lead to some direct revenue, is there one?
So on the tour side, on the paid media front, search by and far is the single easiest
Just organic
one-to-one.
search landing on your site?
Organic and paid search just is the best one-to-one dollar spent for true click-through conversion. However, that person has been influenced by several other marketing
Right.
messages as part of that funnel. So the larger your marketing budget gets, the more you need to pay attention to the attribution modeling. And the biggest thing that we have started to do is starting to apply attribution based on view-through metrics. So those are someone that has been exposed to an ad that they may or may not have clicked on, but maybe later they clicked on the same search campaign. So we don't want to attribute all of the revenue from that sale back to just the search buy. That we need to give the YouTube TrueView campaign that person was exposed to some credit of that buy.
So you
if we're
have
seeing
some, marketing, automation technology behind the scenes that's tracking the touch points to that person, so you can see what's the path that of the exposure to lead them to hit the buy now button.
Correct. But in terms of the single largest area for promotion is, in terms of effectiveness, has been natively integrating the product into the rest of our digital platforms. So for us, it has been integrating live scrolling icons in terms of a live video icon into our leaderboard. Has been our marketing modules that are on part of our scoring pages and our tournament home pages and things like that. So the more ingrained that the product feels as part of something larger, more people are casually coming across it versus feeling like it's an ad that they're necessarily engaging with.
So the key is to make sure your content isn't siloed. It's very integrated, and
yeah, it is making your product available for where consumers are already touching that, maybe that band, maybe that conference, or something along those lines.
It's funny, there's a network that I've worked with, and this always drove me crazy. It's, sometimes IT people get their way even when it's not the right choice. And it had to do with the way they published their videos to their website. And it was a major network, but they were actually, the guy that ran their website, or the people, would not publish these live links until it was live. And they're like, it takes forever for us to get an audience. Like, there's nothing to build the audience with, no pre-roll or anything, and it could not be found in search or on their site until it was live. And that's one of the things we discussed, is give them some time to build. Give them a pre-roll video, or give them something so that you can at least drive traffic there 30 minutes before. I mean, any best practices that you guys seen on that type of pre-roll or building that audience before it's live?
Yeah, absolutely. We would highly recommend that. Actually, with Kling, you don't even need to have your streaming platform or even your online video host selected before you can create a landing page or an embeddable purchase module widget you can put on your site, where you can begin pre-selling basically tickets immediately, and then deal with hooking it together on the back end later. In addition, there's trailers or commercial type 30-second videos you can play, or previews, which for the live event might be the first 30 seconds or minute of the live event free. But we definitely encourage as many pre-sales as possible, because the traffic, everyone wanting to buy that instant that the live event begins, is what can lead to some high traffic and scalability issues. We personally at Kling have just scaled our solution to be able to handle over 1 million transactions per hour in order to try to combat that. So that was a milestone that we reached.
So if you hit that ceiling, you're still happy?
Yes, it's a good problem.
Sorry, we only hit 1 million paid transactions. What are some mistakes that you guys have seen? I know we've kind of been throwing it out. And also, does anybody have any questions about some of the topics we've discussed so far? Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
So I'm a live streaming services company. I do a lot of different clients, some of them entertainment-based who want to monetize. I just put out a survey to some of our people asking if you'd prefer to see an ad or pay for a ticket. And so like what kind of content would you say would lean itself better towards maybe soliciting sponsorship ads rather than requiring a customer pay for a ticket?
That's a great question. Anybody want to take that one?
I would say it has to do with volume, and
Yeah.
to really get significant revenue from ads with the CPM rates out there, you would need volume. Whereas it's also a measure of how dedicated your audience is, because if it's niche content, if they can't find it anywhere else, then you will make far more from asking for them to pay a premium than from the ads.
Yeah, I agree. Depends on your objectives, right? If you're looking for that kind of one-time interaction relationship as opposed to a sustaining long-term relationship, then it's a different strategy. You might use the ad base to help ramp your acquisition and build that strategy then to acquire those folks and then ultimately convert them to a direct monetization, which obviously is our wheelhouse. So happy to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
But no, it really depends on that, and I agree. So it is about the volume, and you have to look at, are you okay at taking the loss now on the revenue side because you know your long-term strategy is to build a base over time. And so there's trade-offs.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that, though. With advertising, unless your audience is in the hundreds of thousands, you're never going to get there.
Right.
So sponsorship, on the other hand, if you're doing Ultimate Frisbee, that Ultimate Frisbee Club Champions, well, ESPN3 has picked it up now in the US. Ultimate Frisbee National Club Championships run over 3 to 4 days, and they generally get audiences streaming for pay events in the 100 to 150,000 unique viewers over 3 or 4 days.
Wow, that's good.
So the reason ESPN3 picked them up is because clearly you do a 10-to-1 ratio usually between, at least we do, between pay-per-view and, you have premium content, but for more event-oriented content, we do tell our people roughly a 10-to-1. 100 people for free, 10 people will pay. But if you can get a sponsorship, if you can get that kind of audience, you can easily get an athletic equipment provider, somebody who will pay a one-time fee to be the sole sponsor. And we found a lot more of the music acts find that very attractive, actually. Music and some of the sports where you can tie it to specialized equipment. Racquetball, handball, this type of stuff works really well.
And that's actually what I was going to say. So there's plenty in the sports space that have a very small niche audience, but it can only work on that small of scale for the right advertiser. And generally those advertisers are endemic to the space. So I'm an avid cyclist, but there's a ton of pay-per-views and free live video content, but that's because of the fact you have the bike manufacturers that it's the single easiest place to reach someone who's going to buy a $5,000 road bike or something along those lines. But for general interest content, that's where you probably get a little bit harder to find those sponsorship dollars.
Now the yachting channel gets a lot of sponsorship dollars. Have you seen the yachting events?
Yes.
They stream yacht racing, and they do it pay-per-view, and it gets when they have big races, then it gets fully sponsored by some
That would
yacht
be a
equipment
tough
maker.
production. Running
Stay on the
camera
shoulders.
cables would be hard. It's interesting that you mentioned the sponsorship because, from our perspective as a manufacturer, that's what we see a lot of success in, especially in a niche audience where someone wants to be affiliated with an artist or they want to be affiliated, they want to have access to the content for on-demand.
Right.
And so, people are willing to put out some reasonable money and they're not worried about the audience as much for that particular live event. And so they're basically investing. And so if you're not doing that, I do think you're missing out on some money. Even if you are doing pay-per-view, go out and try to sell some sponsorships because there are people that want to be affiliated and they get access to the content or maybe clips or something like that, mentions in the show, and they're going to do well with it.
And you can request free passes to get through the paywall that the sponsor
Their clients
basically
gets a certain number?
Yeah.
So is that something that you see a lot?
We've seen Coca-Cola actually do that on a variety of summertime events, that they're a sponsor
Like
of a summertime
concerts or-
event. Not so much concerts, more like a beach volleyball.
Oh, wow.
Some kind of squash event on sand. Just any kind of summertime party type event. Sometimes concerts, but more often competitions in the niche areas. Coca-Cola will sponsor and they will provide, much like the Red Bull concerts, but Coca-Cola will sponsor, and what the provider will do is give them like an unlimited number of free passes that Coca-Cola can distribute as they want, and Coca-Cola then tracks the free pass usage.
And then everybody's drinking Coke instead of water on the volleyball
Yeah.
court, right? So that was a great question. Any other questions that that this is sparking you to ask? Anyone? So let's talk about. Let's see. I did make some questions. Let's talk about some. We kind of touched on this, but if you had to give the audience, I would like you, if you can do this, you don't have to do all, but I'd like 3 secrets to success for monetizing live streams. And I know that we've touched on this, but like if you had to boil it down to what's the 3 most important things for them to write down on their notebooks or in their laptops to turn the corner and take their webcasting and streaming from something that's costing them money to something that's making them money. It doesn't have to be a technology suggestion.
Sure, I'll jump in on that one. I actually wrote it down.
Good.
So maybe it's important to a few, I don't know, we'll find out. But no, I mean, all joking aside, I mean, right now, as you guys know, there's no one OTT solution that's like another. There's no one streaming event that's like another. And so for me, when we consult with a variety of our clients, as you can imagine, and you know, a lot of these things may be fairly straightforward, but when I look at it, you know, number one, I really think about plan your use cases. So when you think about what is the audience experience you want to have, what are you trying to accomplish? What kind of paywall experience are they going to have? What kind of engagement are they going to have? How are they going to disengage should they not like your service? Because you want maybe them to come back over time. So really define your use cases, your KPIs, define your KPIs. You're thinking about those revenue milestones, at which point are you being successful versus your failure points too. So you need to plan for that risk mitigation, right? And then really, when you go to launch, if you've launched already, congratulations to those that have in the room. If you're thinking about launching a service, really you kind of hit on it already. What's your marketing plan? What are you doing to attract awareness? Sling TV was a well-known brand, but they had a hard time getting that attraction going. So you imagine when you go down scale, how exponentially harder is that going to be for you to launch your service? And then really the promotion and capture of that. So that's kind of my, I think about the millennials. How do you use the millennials to, if that's your audience, to leverage that, the social aspect, right, to increase your reach? And then lastly, it's something we talk a lot about at our company. It's, iterate. And what do we mean by that? It's the old, notion of testing. And so, fail fast, fail cheaply, but then learn from that, right? And so there's a variety of ways to promote your offering and your services, and we do it on large and small scales, depending on our clients' objectives. But the intelligence, the insight we gather from those transactions, we're saving that, data warehousing, and we're looking at those analytics. And so the last point there is make sure you use the data to adjust your patterns of trends of engagement, converting those customers, the price points in which you want to charge them. So those are my 3.
It's good. That was a good 3. I saw a lot of pins moving. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with your last point in terms of iterating. My first suggestion would be to start off with a minimum viable product. In other words, not to invest and get underwater right away. Start with the most easy, sort of scalable, simple offering that you can think of, and then get buy-in from consumers and make sure that you test that hypothesis of that business model is going to work for you, and then scale up once you've proven that.
Absolutely.
I would also suggest to keep a global audience in mind, and that there's a few elements to that. First is with rights issues. We handled for SportsMax Digicel the sale of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, geo-restricted to 22 Caribbean countries. And so that was something that no other company had picked up. They picked up the rights with only a couple days until the fight, and they were able to, with Kling, and because of their history with us of doing the FIFA World Cup 2014 with us, they were able to get an offering up and going, get entitlements and authentication to 500,000 of their subscribers who already were maybe part of their cable channel subscribers, as well as sell to pure online web viewers. Also with global is not just rights, but languages, making sure you're having that user experience, checkout experience in as many different languages as possible. And currencies. We partner with a payment gateway that has over 150 different currency payment methods to choose from, depending geographically on what country you're from. So Europe might have a direct debit option, whereas US would just have credit card and PayPal. So that's the second suggestion, is keep a global audience in mind. And then the third is mobile. Being mobile responsive at the least, adaptive. We see over like 30% of transactions happening on mobile, so it's really critical that you have a good, smooth user experience on that, as well as native apps and being on the other platforms, iOS, Android, Roku, what have you, where people, they have their viewing experience of choice, and you want to be wherever the audience is.
We can go down the line.
Okay. Agree with almost everything both of these guys just said. I would say beyond what they've said, my three suggestions would be always have a replay option. So figure out a way to package and offer a replay for a live event. It doesn't have to be a long one. It can be a one-time replay. Have a replay. It is a global audience. People aren't in the same hour of their day when the event happens live. You'll get a much, much bigger overall audience, number one. Number two, pre-sell, at least a month in advance. Just, again, my comment earlier about doing the same kind of promotion that you would if you were a concert promoter in your local town. You don't start promoting 2 days before your live event. Nobody's going to find it.
Yep.
You pre-sell. And then the third one would be, once you've pre-sold, make sure wherever your player is with the paywall, you have clear links to instructions about how to walk through the buy, because, grandma and grandpa, and I'm not using that because of relation, just my mother comes to mind, 87 years old, and she thinks the browser window is the internet. And, she punches things. So when she has a problem, it's, okay, Mom, what did you punch? You walk through this. Customers on pay-per-view have a lot of these same issues. They don't know how to describe their problem. They don't know how to get through the paywall a lot of times. Our paywall, we tried to make it simple. Kling and Vindicia both offer much more sophisticated and easier to use paywalls than ours. Like I said, our business is streaming, not the paywall particularly. But have clear instructions on how to get through the paywall, how to buy, and open up your paywall 20, 30 minutes before, start doing pre-event programming, just like all major sports events do. And so people can come on and get excited. And then you can couple that with your regular marketing, to promote last minute excitement through social media if you want.
Yeah, so picking up on that last point, for us, I'd probably say the thing that's surprised me the most that we've done over the last 8 weeks has just been the native promotion. So it's actually unpaid promotion. So that has been being everywhere and being all places where consumers are consuming the tour, and not necessarily through a paid medium. So it's working with for us, it'd be working with our player relations to have Ricky Fowler tweet to his 1 million followers that he's about to be on PGA Tour Live, and he can't wait to go attack that course or something along those lines. So I would think that for those in the music space, it's working with the bands to really make sure that they're promoting the availability of their own live streaming at something that hopefully would ultimately financially benefit them. And then two, if you do have ad money search works, you're capturing someone when they're at the moment of intent to the highest degree. So if you have any funds that are available, search seems to be the most impactful. And then lastly, for any events that are newer in terms of an event that typically hasn't been streamed in the past, I would feel that a free trial is beneficial as long as you're capturing the information to remarket to that person later. If you ever do decide to get rid of a free trial, or to then continue to upsell that person, or to continue to message to them down the line.
Okay, I have 2 things I want to just throw out for discussion. Yeah, go ahead.
No, can I
Continue,
jump right
please.
back in? Tom, you made a real good point about search, and that's something that I meant to say earlier and forgot. Some of our people with paid search have found it a very cost-effective way for an event. You don't do paid search for beach volleyball. You do paid search for 2015 such and such open volleyball tournament, right? So something very specific. So anyone who's looking for that will have your ad pop up. The it's unlikely that those keywords will be taken in exactly that structure, so it'll be pretty cheap, and people have had good luck with that. Sorry.
And the people that you get through that are the people that
They're
will pay
people
for
who
it.
are looking for
It's not
you.
just the word volleyball.
Right.
And you get people that are trying to buy a volleyball and you've wasted that ad.
Right.
So there's two things I want to bring up to discuss, and you've all touched on this a little bit. The first one is, what is the balance of quality of the webcast to just getting something on the air? Because, you know, one of our premises at New Tech is when something looks like television, it has more value to the viewer and you can sell more. So is that, have you guys seen that? Is it important for it to look good? Or is it okay just to set up a GoPro and just hook it up to a laptop? Anyone? I know you're not. I know where you guys look like network television. So
Well, no, I mean, even for the tour, we have challenges. I mean, we have a more modest setup generally for live press events that take place on a Tuesday that we will make.
multicam or single cam?
Single cam.
Okay. Graphics? No graphics.
No graphics. No graphics. You know, but then when it comes to, it's still a cost-benefit analysis for everyone. It's just the scale changes to some degree. So for us, it's, do you have Pro Tracer on 18 tee boxes like Fox did for the U.S. Open, so that you can actually see the shot trail of every shot? Pro Tracers are very expensive. That's a six-figure item to be carrying around in a golf course. Not to mention the manpower that it takes to have someone take that from shot to shot to shot to hole to hole to hole. So the scale changes. So there's always a cost-benefit analysis. However, if people feel that they are getting a premium product, they're willing to pay for a premium product. So that's the investment mentality that we've had. That obviously changes depending upon the size of the event.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd say audio quality is more important than video.
That's a good point.
But
Unless it is silent yoga. Then audio
Yeah.
quality is just fine.
Irrelevant.
it's the meditative quality of it, of the silence.
We can hear the
Yeah.
ambiance of the room.
Anyway, the smoothness of the streaming is more important than resolution.
So if they're getting a bad
If they're getting any
connection.
jerkiness, buffering, frame drops, they will be more frustrated. Even if it is beautiful when it streams, they'll be more frustrated than if it's a little grainy and smooth.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I would say that we definitely see higher production value commanding higher prices. We see an average price point for pay-per-view between $15 and $20, and you know we've got whether it's IMG Academy or Cox Sports, they have graphics on there during the games. They have announcers. It's a high production value, and that being said, it is a trade-off because some audiences, for things like New Zealand Ice Hockey League or some of the other, Rodeo Mexico we just did, they're just grateful to be able to access it. It's like disparate communities who
Right.
wouldn't otherwise be able to attend, and they're just grateful to
Yeah.
have a part in the event,
Okay.
regardless of the video quality.
Kevin, anything, or should we move
Yeah,
on?
I mean, we can move on, but just quickly, I would just say, as a consumer, I mean, fidelity is important to me. So if I'm going to pay for a service, I'm going to expect a certain standard of quality.
Yep.
And so that's, like as you said, that's the trade-off, right? And so for our customers, they're large scale, thousands of subscribers, and so they
Yeah.
could offset that expense and afford those types of,
Right.
Right.
running with the live streams and all those things.
Okay, so I think, I'm not going to stretch this. I'd like to talk about platforms, over the top, where people are consuming this content. How important is it to have a multi-platform strategy? And if you had to pick a focus, because I know even when you're if you're producing a webcast for mobile, you do the graphics differently. Your font sizes are bigger. So if you had to produce content for a dominant platform, what would it be? At my house, I have a Roku, I have an Apple TV, I have a PS3, I have an Xbox 360. I have 4 kids. We got one of everything, including children. But and I see my kids, they will go to the iPad first. I've got a 100-inch HD TV with THX surround, and I see my daughter sitting on the couch with an iPad, and I'm like, why don't you go watch in there? She goes, oh, this is great, So, what are some advice for our audience here about platform focus, or should you have a platform focus? Should you, and I know it scales depending on the type of content. And if you have a million subscribers at $20 each, it makes it easier to produce a live, mobile, live,
Right.
over the top, whatever. So let's talk about that for a second.
So for us, it's actually been quite a shock. So historically, the live video that we have streamed in the past has always been heavily desktop focused in terms of 80+% of our consumption is happening in a web browser. This is actually, since the launch of PGA Tour Live, so it's an 8-week-old product, it has been the majority of consumption's happening on a mobile device, specifically iOS, which has been shocking because of the fact that our live coverage is Thursday and Friday morning, so 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. roughly. That's generally, for us, it's a business audience that's sitting at their desk at the work, and they have a secondary monitor or something else where they're throwing up a live stream.
Are you seeing that on iPads or phones, or can you tell?
Both. Consumption trends are longer on the iPad, but just in terms of volume of consumption, just on iOS itself has been shocking. And then just the number of subscriptions that we are getting generated through iOS has been eye-opening, to say the least. And
Pun intended.
yeah, exactly. And really, for us, we believe it stems back to the cleanness of the purchase of a subscription through in-app purchases on iOS. It's just such a clean and fast user interaction rather than some other platforms where it's 3, 4, 5 clicks versus iOS is click once, validate your iTunes credentials, and then you're in. So desktop, just because of the fact that it would reach everyone, but then if I had to prioritize a platform first, it'd be iOS, particularly just because of the fact that audiences seem to be more willing on iOS to pay for content.
Okay, anyone else want to comment?
Agree.
What about things like Roku and Apple TV? And then do any of you guys offer that how hard? I know with Apple TV's new Apple TV, the whole app thing is making it a lot easier. But how important is it for people to think, I need a channel on my Roku, I need to do this and put the time and effort in to deliver it where the customer wants? Or are you just driving to mobile devices?
For
in general?
Vindicia, it's a little bit different, so we have a different perspective than folks actually streaming live. For our clients, when they think about their customers, right, they have to support a multitude of devices. And so as you can imagine, where we come into play, it's be able to support those devices through different promotions. So as you know, you have to connect to this device and stream one way versus another device a different way. And so at the end of the day, you want to track all those devices, right, and those views. And so that's where we come into play, is managing that data, looking at the trends, looking at the session times, and so we can give insight back to our clients. So that's kind of the spin on how we use it.
Okay. And DeCast is actually, did I say it right?
Yeah.
It's driving me crazy because I keep wanting to say Daycast.
Our two founders pronounce it differently.
Okay, so I don't
it's
feel
okay
bad.
however
But you
pronounce it.
agree with so you're seeing desktop and mobile and
It depends on, it's content specific. If it's entertainment-oriented content, it's mobile,
okay.
without question. And pads have longer persistence, but not the volume of hits.
Okay.
Okay, more people will actually watch on mobile devices, particularly iOS, not Android.
Okay.
And the payment.
What type of ratio between iOS and Android? Is it like 70% iOS
It
and
shocks
30%
us.
Android?
It's like almost the reverse of the ratio of devices in the field.
Right. Oh, wow.
It is amazingly people who own and use iOS devices, I think, see themselves more as media consumers and media centric.
And they're willing to
and
spend
they're
money.
willing to spend the money on it. For one thing, they're willing to spend, if you buy an iOS phone instead of an Android, part of the consideration usually is that it's an iOS phone. Whereas if you buy an Android, part of the consideration is the economics. And I think that goes a long way. That's
That's interesting.
my personal opinion. We don't have any research to back that up. But we see that for entertainment. Now, if you're doing corporate events, corporate development, it's the laptop desktop that gets used. If you look in my own office with my customer support team, they usually sit there, especially my Europeans, will sit there with some kind of soccer game running on their mobile device while they're handling chat and handling tickets. And this, I think, this matches the pattern of what we see in the pay-per-view events that our customers broadcast. We think that's how their users are watching it.
They're
also.
sitting there at work, second screen, whatever it may
yeah.
be,
Yeah,
watching when they can.
Corporate events and professional and personal development are very attention-driven focuses. You know, people don't get up and go get a beer break in the middle of it, right?
Speak for
They-
yourself. No, just kidding. Oops, did I say that out loud?
But in general, you know, they're there for work or for some reason that they're driven to. They sit, they watch, they stay there. If it's entertainment related, the second device, the mobile device, is essential.
Luke?
So yeah, I think that we see a lot of web-driven content. We are compatible with mobile native apps, so we are able to be the authentication system that someone uses to log into their mobile app and view the content from there. But we also developed a front-end portal, which is fully responsive. So for customers who may not have the resources or want to redo their website in order to optimize for video, we have an add-on front-end microsite that they can use for that.
Cool. Any last minute questions before we round this session out? Anyone? Bueller? No. We have had this is an amazing panel. We appreciate you guys spending some time with us. You know, we're 5 minutes early, so if you do want to get one-on-one questions with any of our panelists, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them. I'd like to thank Eric and the team from Streaming Media Magazine and streamingmedia.com for putting together an amazing day of information. And we hope you give us good ratings on the reviews of this panel. Shameless plug. But I'm Philip Nelson, and for the rest of the panelists, thank you very much. Let's hear it for our panel.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.